Hello everyone. In this video we are going to discuss about the intermolecular forces. Now generally when we talk about ionic compounds, where we'll have say for example if you look at sodium chloride, we'll have positive ions Na plus ions and negative ions Cl minus ions. Between these oppositely charged ions there will be the electrostatic forces of attraction. Okay, so this is something that we have discussed in the case of the ionic compounds. That is what actually stabilizes the overall ionic solid. When it comes to metals, right, you have metal atoms that have released electrons, and these electrons, like a C, they will be able to hold these metal atoms together. So this is the nature of metallic bonding. When we talk about covalent substances, right, like CO2 or HCl, what we have been speaking about is they will exist as independent molecules. But if you take for example CO2 gas in a cylinder, now obviously there will not be just one CO2 molecule, there will be millions of CO2 molecules. Will there be some kind of forces between these CO2 molecules? Similarly, if you talk about HCl will be in the gaseous state. Okay, so when it is dissolved in water, it will dissociate. That is a different story. But if you talk about HCl molecules, again you take the vapor state, then you'll have different HCl molecules. Will there be any forces between these molecules? There are going to be forces between these molecules, and we will be calling them as intermolecular forces. So when we talk about intermolecular forces, right, we are essentially talking about what? The forces between the different molecules in a covalent type of substance. So what are these intermolecular forces? How many types of these intermolecular forces? And what is the reason for these intermolecular forces? So why different molecules are able to attract each other? So we will be able to know all these things in this particular video. Okay. So if you look at the intermolecular forces, right, so these are basically the attractive forces between uncharged molecules. So here we are not talking about the forces between ions or anything, not like that. That is what will be in the case of the ionic compound. But here we are talking about what? The attractive forces between the uncharged molecules. So these forces, right, we will be calling them as the van der Waals forces. What we'll be calling them as? We'll be calling them as what? Van der Waals forces. Generally these van der Waals forces, right, they are divided into three categories. So look at this. What are these three categories? The first one, we will call them as dispersion forces or London forces. What is the first category of this van der Waals forces? Van der Waals force is the general name that we use. The first category of this is what? Dispersion forces or London forces. Second category is the dipole-dipole attraction. We'll discuss about each of them in detail. Okay. The third one is dipole-induced dipole forces. So what are the three types of these van der Waals forces? One is dispersion force or London force. Second is the dipole-dipole interaction or attractions. And third is the dipole-induced dipole forces. So first we will begin with the dispersion forces or the London forces. So what is the reason for these dispersion forces or the London forces? These are in fact some of the very common van der Waals forces that we will talk about. The reason for these dispersion forces or London forces is because of what we call as the transient polarization. What do you mean by this transient polarization? Think about it. Okay, so you have an atom. So just we'll think about atom having as an example, let's say we have 2 electrons in this atom. Now we have the nucleus. Nucleus also will have what? 2 units positive charge. Okay. Now if both these electrons are exactly on either side, then what happens is the center of the negative charge will coincide with the center of the positive charge, because center of positive charge is what? Nucleus. Center of the negative charge will coincide with, it is like in physics you will talk about the idea of center of mass concept. Okay, like that. So center of the negative charge will be what? Exactly coinciding with the nucleus. But if, because electrons will not be stationary, they will be revolving around the nucleus. If say for example the electrons are in this kind of orientation momentarily, because they are in continuous motion, right, at a particular instant of time, in transient motion, like that we'll say. Transient means what? Through the journey, in their journey at a particular instant, they both are not exactly on opposite side, like in this manner they are not there, means what? We can see that they will be on one side, which means in this kind of an situation, right, the center of negative charge, what do we see? The center of this negative charge, right, center of negative charge will not coincide with the nucleus. So as a result, what we will be able to observe here is, look at it, it is like what? You have center of positive charge in one place and center of negative charge in another place. Isn't it like a dipole? It is like a dipole, but it is a transient dipole. It is not going to be staying there like that forever. It is what? Transient. Now this transient dipoles will keep happening in neutral atoms. Why? Because of the way the electrons will be revolving around the nucleus. This is a common phenomena. Now what happens as a result of it? What happens as a result of it? Think about it. You have a transient dipole like this. You have a negative charge of one atom on one side. That will be attracting the positive charge on the other, which means the electrons of one atom are attracting the nucleus of the other. Similarly, you can see the electrons of this will attract the nucleus of the other, and so on. This will be continuous. So such an attractive forces that are developing, we will call them as what? The dispersion forces or the London forces. And what is the main reason for this? This is an inherent nature of the electrons movement. As a result of it, what we will get? The transient polarization. So every time we cannot expect that the center of the negative charge will coincide with the center of the positive charge, and as a result, if they don't coincide, means we will get what? The transient dipoles. Transient dipoles will be able to attract each other in this manner. Now if you look at what are the factors on which this London forces will depend upon. So London forces will obviously depend upon the number of electrons. They depend upon the number of electrons, and second thing is what? Distance of the electrons from the nucleus. Means what? If you have generally element with high atomic number, so we'll say high atomic number, or we can even say high atomic mass, because when we say have higher atomic number, means definitely the atomic mass also will be what? Higher for them, right? What we will observe? Their size will be more, which means what? The electrons will be able to stay farther and farther from the nucleus, and also they will be having more number of electrons. More number of electrons means, you can see the electrons would be able to have more chance for getting this transient dipole formation. So that is the reason why generally when you talk about the London force or dispersion forces, right, they would be depending upon what we say is the atomic number or the atomic mass. So here when we say atomic mass, right, what we are assuming is that as the atomic number increases, definitely the atomic mass also will be increasing. Okay, so this is about the dependency of the London forces or the dispersion forces on the number of electrons. Okay, and second thing is they will also depend upon the surface area. Why they will depend upon surface area? Because surface area means what? If you have for any molecule, right, if you have a molecule, surface area is more, means with another molecule it will be able to have more chances for the interaction, isn't it? So that is the reason why we will discuss about this again when we go to the organic chemistry. We are going to see some applications of this particular phenomena. If you have straight chain hydrocarbons, so hydrocarbons, right, we'll have the concept of isomerism. That particular phenomena is what we call as a chain isomerism. What is it called as? Chain isomerism. Okay, so when we have the straight chain means what? Like if you have pentane. Okay, so again we will discuss about them when we go to the organic chemistry, but here just because we are talking about the applications of this, right, we will take a look at it again, you know, when we revise it in the hydrocarbons lecture video, then you will be able to better understand that. So pentane will have something called as N-pentane. N-pentane means it will be a straight chain. Okay, so it will be what? It will be a straight chain one. All 5 carbons will be in one chain. Okay, and this straight chain one will have more surface area. As a result of it, what is going to happen? The N-pentane will have more stronger because there is more chance for the interaction between the molecules, right? As a result, these London forces or dispersion force are going to be what? More in the case of the straight chain hydrocarbon. So as a result, their boiling point will be what? Higher than what? The isomeric branched chain hydrocarbons. Branch chain hydrocarbons means what? We'll again discuss about them when we go there, but I'll just give you an idea of what it is. So same formula, right? Pentane formula will be, what is the general formula for the alkane? CN H2N plus 2. Okay, so C5, you can see what will be the formula here? C5H12. Same C5H12 formula, we can have another representation like this. Look at it. So we'll have CH3, CH, CH3, CH2, CH3. Okay, so this is also what? Pentane. This is what we call as a branched pentane. Okay, so this is, there is a branching that is happening. So the branched isomers, right? In comparison to the branched isomers, the straight chain one will have more surface area. As a result of it, what is going to happen? The London forces or these van der Waals forces will be what? Higher, and hence the straight chain one will have a higher boiling point than the branch chain ones. Okay, so about the dispersion forces or the London forces, what are the two things that we need to keep in mind? One is they depend upon the atomic number or atomic mass. If you want to compare between different molecules, right, what we will say is the molecule with a higher atomic mass, molecular mass, will have a higher dispersion forces. Okay, and second thing is what? When we want to compare in terms of these isomers of the hydrocarbons, what do we see? A straight chain isomer will have more surface area, which will increase the strength of the van der Waals forces. That is why their molecules will be very strongly attracted to each other. So to boil it, right, we have to heat it to a higher temperature. That is why the reason why the boiling point will be what? Higher for them. Okay, so this is about the London force or dispersion forces. What is the main reason why they are happening? Because of the transient polarization. The second type of these van der Waals forces is the dipole-dipole attraction. So what do we call it as? Dipole-dipole attraction. So what is this dipole-dipole attraction? So if you talk about the covalent molecules, right, they are not like 100% pure covalent. 100% pure covalent will come when we have a covalent bond between two identical atoms. Like say we have a bond between hydrogen, or we have a bond between chlorine. They will be what? 100% covalent. But you have a bond between hydrogen, chlorine, imagine. So what is going to happen? Chlorine is more electronegative. So it will pull the bond electrons more strongly towards itself. So we can keep a partial negative charge on chlorine and partial positive charge on hydrogen. So such molecules we call them as what? We will be calling them as what? Polar covalent molecules. We will call them as polar covalent molecules, and every polar covalent bond will have a dipole moment. That is the reason why we are calling them as what? Dipole-dipole interactions. So if you look at a container in which we have the HCl, the partially negative chlorine will attract partially positive hydrogen of another molecule. Okay, and partially positive hydrogen of one molecule will be attracting the partially negative chlorine of another molecule, like that. Okay, so such interactions will be called as what? The dipole-dipole interaction. So the positive end of one molecule and the negative end of the other molecule, they will be attracting each other. Okay, and a very special case of this will be what we call as hydrogen bonding. So we'll discuss about it in detail separately, but a very special case of this will be called as what? Hydrogen bonding. Okay, but generally when we say dipole-dipole attractions means what? It is going to be between the polar covalent type of molecules. Next we have dipole induced dipole attraction. So what is this dipole induced dipole? So let us say we have a dipole or polar molecule. So you can see AB. B is here electronegative. That is why B is getting what? Partial negative. A is electropositive. That's why it is having partial positive. On the other hand, what do you see here? It's a non-polar molecule. The bond is formed between two atoms of same element A. They should not be having actually a partial negative or partial positive charge, but here we are keeping a partial positive here and partial negative here. Why is it coming? It is coming because of a phenomena in charges which we call as induction. So what is the phenomena called as induction? So what is this induction? Again, these are all the properties of the charges. So again, about this induction you will be learning in your +2 electrostatics chapter what is this induction concept, but here we will just try to take a quick look at what is the induction. Like, think about it. You have any substance which is uncharged. You have a substance which is what? Uncharged. Now try to bring a positive charge close to it. If you bring a positive charge close to it, right? If you bring a positive charge close to it, I'll use a different marker so that we can see. So let us say we bring a positive charge close to it. You know what we are going to observe? On the side closer, we are going to see the accumulation of the negative charge, because in this substance, the negative charges will be pulled more towards the positive charge, attraction. On the side farther, you will see accumulation of the same type of charge. Here we will get what? Opposite type of charge. On the side farthest, we will get the same type of charge. Okay, this phenomena is what we will call as the induction, and you will see in electrostatics physics, as I said, that this method is going to be one of the common methods of charging objects. Like, how do you charge object? You already have one charged object, you take it closer to an uncharged. So this is originally what? This is originally uncharged. Okay, and by the phenomena of induction, we can see one side of this is getting what? Negative, other side of this is getting what? Positive, like that. Okay, so this is what we call as the induction phenomena. Now here also we'll have the same principle. Look at it. This B is what? Partially negative. So the atom that is closer to the B, here this side, this one, will get what? Exactly opposite type. You see what is going to happen? We should get opposite type of charge on the side closer. So B is what? Delta minus. So this A will get what? Delta plus. And since it is getting delta plus, means the other A will be having what? Delta minus, because overall this molecule is what? Non-polar molecule. Okay, and this is basically the induced charges. So the charges on the atoms of A here in this molecule is what? Induced charges. Now they are not going to be staying there permanently. If, say for example, we will remove this AB molecule from this space itself, we will totally remove it, then we will no longer have this partial charges on the molecule A2. They will just vanish. So these induced charges will be present as long as there is this polar molecule nearby, and they will vanish once you take out this polar molecule. Okay, so this is also what? It is also like a temporary phenomena. Okay, now you see what is going to happen. This side B is what? Delta minus. This side A is what? Delta plus. So they will start attracting each other. So this kind of attractive forces, what do we call them as? Dipole. This is the dipole. And what about this one? This is what we call as the induced dipole. So that's the reason why the name comes actually. What is it? Dipole and induced dipole, the attractive forces between them. Okay, so this is about the three types of van der Waals forces that we will be having. And to compare the strength, this is important, mostly from the examination point of view. What will be the strength? See the dipole interactions, right? Because you are actually having what? The attractive forces between the partial charged species. So the dipole interactions will be stronger. They will be stronger than what? Obviously they will be stronger than dipole induced dipole, because here we don't have two polar molecules, only one of them is polar, other is what? Induced. So induced charge rate will be definitely lesser in comparison to the original charge. So what we see is that the dipole induced dipole will be having little bit lesser strength in terms of strength of forces, and the dispersion force or London forces, which are coming due to the transient polarization, that will be actually having weakest strength among these three types of van der Waals forces, right? The one that will be the weakest will be what? The forces that are coming due to the transient polarization, which we call them as what? The dispersion forces or the London forces. Okay, so this is about the comparison in terms of